Hello, we are doing the sleeve now. We've got the body of the shirt put together, the back, the front. I left slits on the sides of mine. You can do that if you like. On the pattern, just mark a spot where you're going to leave slits if you don't have the pattern piece that already has it. Mine didn't, but I wanted to do that. And here's what the sleeve looks like. It's set in. Here's the cuff. Okay, I haven't done that yet. I am using the 2-part sleeve on mine. So that's pieces number 6 and 7. And they came together and then formed one sleeve. I'll put on the inside. So let's take a look at those pieces. All right, here's the sleeve. Here's the cuff. Piece number 5 is a 1-piece sleeve, and what you're going to do is put it together. You're going to stitch it together to make it one. Sometimes sleeves are put in where the garment is flat. That's mostly athletic wear and real casual wear, but blouses, jackets, coats, the sleeves are set in when they're already constructed together. So put your sleeve together, the seams together, the inseam together. If you're using a 2-part sleeve, you're going to piece number 6 and 7 together, and then it makes one. And don't forget to leave the opening. There's a circle right at the bottom. Okay, let's go over that right quick. The 2-part sleeve. It's pieces 6 and 7, and they come together. Here's a notch here. They line up here, and you stop here at the large circle to create the opening because it's going to have a cuff. And here's that opening. But once you put it together, it creates one sleeve, okay? So you put those together and make sure all of your notches are cut, because here's your back notch here. It's a double notch. And here's your front notch. So make sure those are marked. Here's a single notch here, because the 2 pieces are going to come together and be stitched like so. On piece number 5. On piece number 5. Come on. There it is. All right, piece number 5 is already a 1-piece sleeve. And don't forget to mark your notches, cut your notches out. Here is a double notch, meaning the back. Here is a single notch, meaning the front. And the circles, mark those circles, especially the top circle, because that mark will line up with the shoulder seam of the garment. Whether you're doing a short sleeve, blouse B is cut here. Blouse, let's see, here. The fold line for A and C are here. Okay, if you need to lengthen or shorten your sleeve, you do it here at the double line where it says lengthen or shorten here. You can take it up to shorten it if you need a petite sleeve, or you cut here and lengthen. It's a pretty long sleeve. You've got a lot of flexibility. And this one is a fold line for the facing for blouse A. Okay. So whichever sleeve you have, they're going to be constructed the same. Here's the cuff number 8, piece number 8 for the cuff, and that's for the 2-part sleeve, and we'll go over that in a second. The first thing you want to do is gather the sleeve head. Okay, that's 2 long rows of stitching. Long meaning a wide stitch, and your machine may go up to 4, it may go up to 5. So a wide stitch. Let me demonstrate on the pattern. Right at the sleeve head, you're gonna, these dots here, just so you won't be confused, these dots here indicate this is where you're supposed to do the stitching, Okay, so start stitching here about a 1/4 inch away from the edge of the fabric. And then about another 1/2 inch away is your second row. No back stitching, do a long basting stitch. Put your stitch width, excuse me, your stitch length on as high as it'll go. But if your machine has an automatic basting stitch, hit that one. No back stitching because you're going to need to pull these threads. I'm sure, some of you have done this before. So ease this area in with the threads. I've already done this one. Okay, so if you can see the 2 rows, I've got white thread on white fabric, but the 2 rows of thread, and that eases it up and puts it, sets it up like in a cap. Here's the blouse. It's on its right side. And here's the sleeve on its right side. Now remember, you've got double notches on the back and a single notch on the front. So that means there is a right side sleeve and a left side sleeve. Okay. So the easiest way to start putting it on, just lay it down, orient it the way it would be. Both pieces are on the right side of the fabric. And pin right sides together right at the seam. That's your first pin. Pin on the sleeve side. Okay, that gets you started so you're not confused. And then what you want to do is just take the sleeve and bring it up and find see my single notch right there cut, and you pin at the shoulder seam of the blouse. Pin on the sleeve side because that's the side you're going to stitch on. Pin at your notches. Pin on the sleeve side, both notches. So you notice how I've got some room here because I've gathered up the sleeve head. I want to just start easing it out so that it lines up and fits. If you've never put in a sit-in sleeve, it can be challenging. I'm not going to say it's easy because it's not. It takes a lot of practice. And when you get it, oh my God, it's so satisfying. But it is challenging because you're having to ease in fabric that's already crinkled and gathered, and you just gotta play with it. And I do suggest using a basting stitch. If this is your first time or you feel like it's going to be really challenging for you, use a basting stitch to do it the first go round. And if you look at it and it looks good, then go back over it with a regular stitch. Don't take the basting stitch out, but do it with a long stitch so it'll be easy to take out if you, have the crinkles. You don't want to put a nice permanent stitch in there and then have to pull it out. So use a wide stitch that's easy to take out. And if it's perfect when you do it and you're satisfied with it, you can just stitch over it with your regular stitch. And nobody knows but you. And there's no such thing as too many pins. Okay. And see, I still have some room there that I can pull this. Not so much there. There we go. That's always a good feeling, like, oh, I can open it up some more. But the idea is, see how it's gathered? The idea is to stitch where you're not going to get any crinkles. stitch, and make sure the flat fabric stays flat. And if you did your stitches, your gathered stitches, this one really close to the edge and this one further down, you'll be stitching in the middle. And that's the sweet spot of getting your fabric to lay down nicely. So it's a good stitch when you're done, and it'll look like that. Okay. All right, let's go to the machine. So here's our sleeve, and you want to start stitching on the seam right there. So put it in the machine. You're going to stitch 5/8, and again, I really suggest you use a basting stitch, a wide stitch, so that, not to gather, just a loose stitch, so that you'll be able to take it out in case you make a mistake. Okay, let's get a little closer so you can see what we're doing. Follow the curve, because you see the curve here. Follow that. Take your pins out as you go. And you see how the fabric is gathered? You want to make sure you're not hitting any crinkles along the way. You can keep the fabric smooth. Okay, look at that crinkle. Let me show you something I do. Try to get in there. This is my favorite tool to help me sew. It's flat and it gets in there, and it's so helpful. Here's a real crinkle right here. Flatten it out. And if you're stitching in between your gathered rows, that's the best thing. Okay, coming over the shoulder seam. Yeah, this is really how you put in a set-in sleeve. This is the process. Some are gathered more than others, just depending on the pattern and the design of the sleeve. It just depends, and you'll have maybe a different experience each time. More gathers, less gathers. Oh, I got a crinkle, but that's good. I'll show you how to get rid of it. But it's practice. Please do not feel bad if you don't get it perfect the first time. It is practice. Keep my edges good. Oh, and the exhale when you come down on the other side. It's like coming down off of a steep hill. And you can just keep going. All right, let's take a look. Let's look at our stitch, because you'll only see it once you take out this last gathering stitch here. There's my regular stitch. Here are my 2 gathered stitches. We're going to take this one out. So if you look closely, we'll find the crinkles that I have. Here's one right there. I think I got 2 because I felt it when I did. Right? No, that's not one. Yeah, there's two. Well, I think that's it. No, I don't think so. So what I'm going to do is take out that last gathered stitch, turn your sleeve to the other side, and let's get rid of the gathering stitch so that you can see for real. And going to the ironing board is really a good way to help you see where the crinkles are, because it may look like a crinkle at the point of the gathered stitch, but it may not be. Okay, just pull it out. This is linen, so you'll see a few crinkled holes there. There's one right there. And once you press it, I think I got, like I said, I think I have two. But you get the point. So what you would do is, if you have a crinkle, you just take those stitches out, right? What is that? Oh, that's mother seam. So if you have a crinkle, like say, for example, let's find my crinkles. Okay, there it is right there. What you would do is take your stitches out from maybe here to here. Just take your stitches out and then ease it, smooth it out and ease it, and just stitch over it. So they're kind of easy to get out of the way because you're not stitching the whole thing over. But if you have a whole lot of crinkles, yeah, you kind of want to start all over, okay? But that's why I suggest you use a wide stitch that's easy to take out, and you won't mess up your fabric. Okay, so we've got the sleeve set in. This is the front, and our next step, we'll put the cuff on. Now let's put the cuff on the bottom of sleeve 6 and 7, the 2-part sleeve. So I've put it together. It's in the shirt. We just did a set-in sleeve. And the pleat marks are already indicated on the bottom. So here's the opening. And here's the underarm seam. So this is the small circle, and here's the large circle. I do a short line for the small circle and a long line for the large circle. So I'm going to take the short circle line and take it over. Let me get my pins. Where did I do my pins? I'm jumping on the floor. Okay. And the small circle line, take it over to the large circle line. Make sure, this is linen, so I can finger press it. Okay, so there's our pleats. Okay, so here's a notch. And the cuff, piece number 8. Piece number 8, it's just a square, it's interfaced, and the instructions tell you to fold it right side together, fold down the inside edge, 5/8, and stitch down. And then once you stitch it, you're going to turn it, and this is what it looks like. Okay, it's interface, press it, make sure you have a nice seam. This was your, this was stitch 5/8 and 5/8, and then I trimmed it down. So this is how the cuff is going to go onto the shirt. Let's pin it. Let's match up the notch first. And then come around to your edge. Here's your pleats. Come around to your edge. Line it up. Then go around to the other side. You all know about balance pinning, so come around to each end and your notch, and then fill in. And if your stitching was off, like this one is, maybe the pleats weren't as deep as they needed to be. There we go. Oh, it fit. It just didn't line up exactly with the notch. And it fits just perfectly. Now, sometimes your lines can get off. You know, here's your fold for the opening and your pleats, but you know, it fit. So we're going to stitch 5/8 around, and then your cuff will be on, and you'll top stitch it to close up the facing side, and you'll be done. You'll be ready for a button. Come up on stitching your pleats, just make sure they're straight underneath there. You don't want to crinkle a pleat. You just have to take it out and do it over again. Just make sure they stay straight. Two of them. You can base those pleats down beforehand if you're nervous about them. There's your cuff, and you're going to turn the seam in. And if you're working with linen, let your iron help you make all these turns and folds and everything. Keep them really nice and crisp. Okay, I'm going to trim this down. Just not, you know, just unnecessary bulk in a seam. And then once you turn it over, you want to top stitch to catch both sides. And this is what the cuff will look like. You top stitch to catch both sides. There you go. All right, there's your sleeve, all complete.
Okay, let's do piece number 5, which is the sleeve with the self-facing at the bottom. Make sure you get this. Here's the steps here. We're starting with step 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Okay, these areas here, because this bottom, it can get confusing. Can everyone mute? Okay, so we're doing sleeve number 5. And let's look at it. You've got 2 circles here. Look at this pattern piece. Got 2 circles, 2 large circles, and a fold line. Those are key. So once you get your sleeve cut, here's my little muslin fabric. You're going to stitch, put the sleeve together. You're going to stitch down and stop at the first circle, and then start at the second circle and stitch down. This area here will be open. We get that. Stitch down to the first circle, and then the second circle, stitch all the way down to the bottom edge. This area here where the fold line, all of this will be open. So after stitching, I went to the ironing board and I pressed the seam open. So I stitched down and stopped at the first circle. I started at the second circle and stitched down to the bottom. And then I went to the ironing board and I stitched, pressed the seam open. All right, so turn to the opposite side, turn right side out. You're on step number 11. See the opening here? Oh, that's kind of pretty. All right. And then fold on the fold line, fold it up on the fold line. And this is the circle here, the bottom circle that came up. So here's your opening here. What the pattern is telling you to do is stitch. See how I opened that up? It was already pressed. So there's a seam line right there. Make sure it's all together. What it's telling you to do is open this up and stitch this closed here. And the same on the other side. Stitch this closed. Okay, so when we open it, it'll be a closed seam right here that hangs down. These vents will be closed. And these circles match up. So when you stitch, you'll stitch all the way up here and stitch all the way up here. So now I've got these stitched. I'm going to open them up and turn them to the inside. Ta-da! I thought it was going to take longer. Okay, and then what you're going to do is top stitch. I want to make sure I'm in the frame. I got a little crinkle right there, but you get it. I turned everything in. And like what Amy was asking, how do you secure it here on the inside? The pattern says just, like secure it right here close to the edge. If you want to, based on your design preferences, you can stitch all the way around, because that would be annoying if you were to put your hand in every single time and had to put this back, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so just press this. Let me do it now so we can see it. See how crisp it can look. Yeah. Okay. Thought it was going to be more. Okay. Okay. So I've pressed it, and then you can top stitch. The pattern says you can top stitch here, make it really secure. I mean, it's a cute sleeve. Like I said, this popping out would bug me. So Denise, you can decide if you want to, just like Amy is, because you all are the only two doing this sleeve, right? Is anybody else doing number sleeve?
I think so.
Number 5 sleeve? Yeah, okay. So Denise, decide. You can have some fun with it and stitch around, or just leave it as it is. But okay. I think it's cute.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah, I do too. You like it, Denise, now that you see it?
I love it, yeah.
You do? Yeah, I think it'll look cute. Okay. Well, there is sleeve number 5.
Thank you.
You're welcome.